Hey everybody, how are you guys? So just give me a few minutes. I am waiting for SF to get here and we are going to do our interview.
Does she have stuff?
I wonder if he can join it if it's not alive. Guys, okay. Be quiet, guys.
Hello?
Hello, thanks for being here.
Sure.
Okay.
Let me just silence my phone. Hold on.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Um, okay. Good.
Okay, so I know you're really busy. I'm glad you could take a few minutes. I appreciate it for you to just talk to me. So you were there when it happened, when the car was pulled out.
Yeah.
I know Dad and Grandpa were there, but was Lindsay there at all?
No, they would not. She wanted to come down. They would not let her down there because once it was law enforcement was there, it's a crime scene just because there's a body there. So
Okay.
we had arrived before. We were up on the hill. We were up. We were by the I call it the peninsula, that second peninsula that's behind it. We were on a ridge there when I got the call from another investigator that I work with that eventually the purpose had announced that they found her. And it's only 300 yards away, maybe. So we shot over there, but we were there before law enforcement, which is why, we were allowed to stay there. They actually had Daniel, her father. They tried to get everybody to go to CHP headquarters for the official announcement, I guess, or not announcement, but notification.
Right.
And Daniel went, but her grandfather would not, which is why I stayed.
Right. So she wanted to come, but they would not let her come down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I know a lot of people.
From when no, I didn't go to the other side. So after maybe 5 or 6 hours, like I said, Daniel had left, so he could not come back. He went to CHP, but her grandfather and I stayed. And her grandfather said, I'm not going to leave until I see the car come out of the water.
Okay.
He's part of the car because they didn't want us to. They said, it's not going to be. You don't want this to be your life. They definitely did not want him looking in the vehicle.
Right.
And I had already seen pictures, and I told him to, and he didn't want that. He just said, I just want to see the car, and then I'll leave. So when the car was somewhat out of the water, he at that point, I believe Lynn, I'm pretty sure Lindsay. I know that several family members were there, but they were across the.
Oh, okay.
They were where. Well, I think they're where Adventures with Purpose went, and so which is not far, but you can't. There's a body of water. There's an inlet of water between you. I think they were there because David, who's the grandfather, said he was going to go over there with the rest of his family, and then I just left.
Oh, okay. So I just want to make sure I have everything clear.
Mhm.
So did you or Grandpa actually were you able to look in the vehicle? Did you see anything in the vehicle, or did they keep you away from it?
I saw. So before, long before they pulled the car out or anything, Adventures with Purpose did significant amount of video and photos underwater. And then the first thing that law enforcement did when they got there and they established an incident command center was they sent a dive team down, and they videoed probably for an hour and a half underwater without touching the car. So I had seen imagery. I didn't go to the car and look inside, but I had seen underwater imagery just to know that it was her. And I assured her family that, it was her.
Okay. So that's what I kind of wanted to know, because I know Dad left. He was upset. He was like, I don't want that image in my head, which I understand that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't actually sure if anybody besides the cops who pulled the car out had actually seen inside the car.
Yeah, so actually before law enforcement even showed up, so that video that you see, I think you're referencing that from Adventures with Purpose, where he, we arrive, and then within a minute or so, Daniel gets on the quad runner and takes off. So that's like an hour and a half later. They make it look all happen that quick. We were there. Daniel was at least an hour and a half before he decided to leave. So. But before law enforcement even was there, I had seen imagery from Adventures with Purpose. So we knew that I knew they didn't want to see, but I had seen it, and part of that I think was, to be honest with you, was kind of a mistake because they, for whatever reason, instead of going in the trailer and showing it, they airdropped this imagery, and I was like, you gotta shut this, because it was open to everybody. I just so and I want to make sure that well, David didn't even have a with him, but yeah, so no, I did see what needed to be seen, and
okay and now I'm trying to say this without, because I'm not trying to offend Adventures with Purpose or anything like that. But I was curious. So obviously when we watch the video, you can tell it's heavily edited, the way they released it.
I agree.
Because a lot of people thought that too. They were like, why did the father leave so fast? He was not there very long. And I'm like, you got to think that they had to, put it together. So did you at all have any contacts with the mother, Lindsay, at all?
Not besides, not beyond at the volunteer center. Everybody that was there to search and whatnot was asked to check in the mornings, so they knew who was out there in case somebody else went missing, in case a searcher went, so they could account for everybody. So only through that. She she was distraught. Now, that's the same way that I met her father and grandfather, grandmother, or sorry, not grandmother, but David's significant other. But Lindsay was obviously, my purpose was not, to get to know her or anything. It was to help. So did I meet her? Yes. Did we have any conversations like face to face, one-on-one? No.
Oh, okay. Now, Adventures with Purpose, obviously when they dropped that video and they included the part where he was on the phone and he said Kiely got into a fight with blank, and then they blanked it out, which caused a huge stir online, right? For reason, like, I get it. But did you yourself hear anything about that? Were you there at that point? Like, was that mentioned at all?
No, I think so. I'll come back to that, but just when we were there, and this is while Daniel was still there in that hour and a half before it took law enforcement a while to get out there, just because they're spread out,
Right.
And I think the FBI was, actually, one of the local police departments, not the sheriff's, it showed up first, and then the FBI, and then the sheriff started showing up. But while we were waiting for them, I could see Doug and the camera people down on the shoreline where they clearly were like doing a take over and over, So I was like, are they like? And it took about 30 minutes before I realized there was cameras even there, because there was a lot of people, but you're just so like, you can't believe what's going on. You see the ball, the buoy out there, and you're like, the car's right there.
Yeah.
So, but I could see them like retaking shots, and I even mentioned to her grandfather, I'm like, they're like creating a scene, like redoing a scene over and over. And so anyway, to get back to your question, I'm sorry, but it was, did I see
like, were you around, or did you hear anything? Was there talk going on at the point where they were talking about the fight?
Yeah, no, what they did turn into a big deal was not long after we got there, maybe 5-6 minutes after we've been there, and they said, you know, the ball is where we found the car, and it's 14 feet of water. And then I did some of the imagery, and I came back, and then when in that video you see there's like a circle of us kind of sitting around. And when I ask was her seatbelt on, or you know, was she in the driver's seat?
Right.
And so shortly as that conversation went on a little bit, Doug said, listen, can I talk to you guys privately? And keep in mind, at this point, we still don't know there's cameras there. I still hadn't real, not like they were hiding them. I just, you know, so he takes me, Daniel, and David down right to the water line. And so now there's a circle of 4 of us, and he's like, listen, he asked me, he said, who would, if something, I don't think he said criminal, but if foul play was involved, who would be your suspects right now? And I said, it would be Jagger and Sammy.
Right.
Because up to that point,
right,
we're thinking the car's been gone 2 weeks. There's got to be foul play involved here.
Yeah.
But we think now it's most likely an abduction because we know how much gas she had in the car, and surveillance was pulled from every single gas station within that radius. So we know the car didn't stop and get gas. So we're thinking the car's in a garage somewhere and somebody got her. Right. So I said, and you know, those 2 names, and he's like, and then he then proceeded to tell us in a lot more detail than what you see on their edited video about the encounter with Nick, the roadside guy. And they tell us, you know, we had this guy, he's a big fan of ours. He found us coming into town, he pulled us over, and he tells the same story he tells everybody, except they very specifically said to us that they showed a picture of Jagger,
right,
and that he identified Jagger. Now, this is, I know that since they've released the further unedited version, that's kind of come out. But, you know, if you remember, after the first round came out, people were still like, you know, he didn't identify Jagger. You identified Jagger. They were saying that I did. I'm saying, I'm just telling you what they told us.
Right.
So and at that point, it's like, it makes sense that foul play could be involved because, you know, we hadn't time to process it, although we knew Jagger had been accounted for in Napa Valley. So that part did not make sense. But we're at that point with anything. Here's the guys that came in, they found the car, which is shocking in itself, that how does search and rescue miss that car and the dive car that many times? Because I've watched them on like 3 separate days go over that area.
Yeah.
So they really pushed that narrative, and we were like, that's, you know, because just to let you know, there had been a lead or a sighting at Boca in the first couple days. Had been, I think it was at the same area that Adventures with Purpose described, and I think it was campsite 14, number 14, I think, and it was a group of college age kids that had a boat and some jet skis there, and so, but the family had gone out there, and the FBI had gone out there, and it ended up being these college kids that, you know, they could be accounted for. But a lady who worked at the campground, and said, you know, here's this, you know, and they were really rowdy and drunk. We almost kicked them out. So it made, you know, then all of a sudden, now we're hearing another thing about that same area, and we're thinking, okay, something's up. We don't have time to process it at this point.
Right.
But 45 minutes later, you know, Daniel had left, and I was talking to her grandfather as they're still like, the tow truck was just arriving and stuff. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. I'm like, how can we make this make sense? That there's no way that, like, because the thing that it all kept coming back to was we knew the last cell phone ping location. And we're like,
Right.
that makes sense for somebody to throw a phone in the water, take the car and come back and dump the car in the exact same spot. With, it's like, we know that the car, unfortunately, probably her, this is before she found, are where the cell phone was. And so that kept tripping us up. And it made sense why they kept scouring that area. I didn't understand why they were saying that, like, the ping was as much on land as it was on water,
Right.
But there's a lot of things I didn't understand. It was a really, really poor investigation. It was a
Oh man.
I
Yeah.
mean, I've been involved in a lot of these, and I've never seen
Anything like it.
bears. And especially, I was staying in the same hotel as the FBI, and there was like 55 FBI agents there.
Wow.
And there was also Homeland Security. There was there was multiple federal agencies, and
Right.
the fact that, like, that car was in 14 feet of water, 35 feet offshore,
Yeah.
is mind-boggling.
That's crazy.
And the fact that, and I'm not being arrogant about this, but it should not have been me that found the fire cams. First of all, portion of those people that were out on that recovery had the app downloaded to their phones. I guarantee it, because all first responders are suggested to download the fire cam app. They have access to an app, and they can actually zoom the cameras
Right.
from the app.
Well, now that you've brought that up, I actually would like to make a point on that. And I listen, when those fire cam that video came out, I honestly questioned it. And I mean, right, this case has been so crazy. But my thought was Cal Fire had to have known that camera was there, right? I mean, they had to have known. So why would they never have checked it?
Well,
during this whole time?
When I say the first responders, that's what I'm talking about. The people who operate the camera, which is operated by the universities there in conjunction with Cal Fire. I don't think we can assume that everybody was following the case like we were following it. In other words, they probably see it on the news and like, wow, that's tragic, and don't connect the dots. Like, oh, they really can't find a car. She was at a party there,
Yeah.
And listen, I mean, look how long it would take me, a couple months to even think about it and go, because I originally started looking for, what I started looking for was fire tower. I knew that a lot of the fire towers in California, the old ones before I didn't even know they had gone to cameras at this point, but I knew that I had seen a Sunday morning news story a year or two ago where they were converting a lot of those to Airbnbs, even though they're still being used, and that's the way they were maintaining them and whatnot, because they're always been maintained by volunteers. And I started looking on Airbnb if there was any of these converted fire towers in that area, because I figured, being Airbnbs, they probably have surveillance just for security purposes.
Right.
And then as I was Googling that and trying to find out locations of them, I ran across the fire cam networks, which I was not familiar with. And then boom, there it was. I mean, I went to the camera and I was like, oh my God. I mean, and then I played back the footage from the day before to see what the nighttime looked like, and you could clearly see headlights. And so then I was like, it was kind of a tricky situation. I wasn't sure which direction to go with it, because I didn't want, I knew it was going to be really sensitive. I knew it was going to get out there if I said it, and I knew it was going to be really hard for the family to see. But law enforcement didn't, which is not surprising at this point, didn't really do much with it. And I'm not trying to bag on them, but it just was not a good investigation.
Yeah.
The way it's been handled since, I think one of the reasons that we're having this conversation is because Nevada County will not have a press conference to
it's crazy.
close all the loose ends, and they're doing it. They won't do it. This is just my guess, but I 100% think that's because they don't want to answer the questions of, why did your divers miss that car? Why the fire camera? Why do we still not have final reports? Why are you still telling some people the investigation's open and some people it's closed?
Right.
It's almost like they're so butthurt about being embarrassed that they're trying to tell us
Yep.
like F off, that's
Yeah.
really what it feels like. So,
And
I can tell you, I don't want to speak for the family, but I can tell you that like, I think that, I just think there's been a lot of frustration there as far as lack of answers and stuff.
right.
Up until, I know now they got more, but I mean, they weren't getting any information. The whole reason the grandfather like was relying on me a lot was he's like, he, after the first night I was there, so I went to the lodge, and he like stays in a trailer on the property, so we were sitting outside the trailer having a glass of wine in a paper cup, and he's like, you're the only person that's given me any information this whole debacle. He's like, people talk in circles, and
Right.
and he's like, he's like, Steve, all I want is answers, and I want the truth. I don't want to hear anything that's not the truth.
Right.
And, I really felt for him. He was just like, he's like, I don't, what is going on, and I didn't have any answers for him at that point. And I just told him, I said, David, I'll stay here searching, as long as I need to. I can't promise you anything.
Yeah.
I was there. I know people, bring up the fact that I'm a private investigator, which I am, but I was there work volunteer. I was there searching on the ground, and
Right.
told him, I'll fly drones, I'll walk the thing, I'll do everything as long as it takes any answers I come up with, I'll pass on to you.
Right.
So sorry, I kind of went off track there, but
Oh, no, you're good. So let me ask you this. So you've done a lot of search and rescues. You've done, you've been around a lot of these cases.
Mhm.
Did it not, like, what did you think when you saw that, like, Sammy was pretty much running the search and rescue area, and like people were reporting that like teenagers were running these booths where if they, excuse me, if anybody found anything, they just were to take it to this table and hand it over to these teens. I mean, have you ever seen anything like that?
no. And so the way that I got decided to get involved in volunteering is I live in Los Angeles. I had the case had been going on for, I don't know, like a week maybe. I was in Orlando actually on a search for this guy Vlad, and I got back and I was kind of watching. I had been seeing what's going on, but I was watching it more in depth, and I saw the interview on the news where Sammy said, she's like, oh, any teens, come to me. We're going to go in this trailer here.
Yeah.
Won't be creepy. I was like, and I actually tweeted, and the tweet's still out there because keep in mind at this point, it's Placer County was running.
Right.
I said, Placer County, I'm like, what is going on? You have because on the news, they're showing her with a microphone.
Right.
And they're like next to her, and it looks like they know what's going on, right? So
Yeah.
I tweeted at them, and this is paraphrasing. I haven't seen the tweet in a while, but it's out there. And I said, what is going on? You are letting a teenager run an investigation of a missing person that at this point, a lot of people are thinking is an abduction,
Right.
And they actually tweeted back at me, which I was shocked. And they said, she brought her own microphone and we were on public land. So
Wow.
not much. And I was shocked at that, and it really kind of pissed me off, to be honest with you. And that's why I decided at 1:00 in the morning, I got in my car and I just started driving that way.
Oh, really?
I was like, this is crazy. A 6 or I guess she 8, 7, whatever. I'm like, is the FBI is there? Homeland Security is there? All the local law enforcement, the sheriffs, everybody's there. And she is saying, come to me. Here's my number, or come to, and then that was the same meeting where she was saying, parents, drop your kids off.
Right.
Do not
drive away.
Do not stay in the area. Whatever she was saying, like leave.
Yeah.
And I was shocked.
Craziness.
And
I've never seen such a thing.
no. And I think, and so I got up there, and it's actually the next morning is when I met David for the first time at the no. I'm sorry. The next day when I got there, the first people I met was Daniel, her father, and I think Daniel's profile. I don't know for sure. Then I searched all day, and the next day is when I met David really early in the morning, and at the trailer, maybe at like 5:30 in the morning, he'd come out to walk his dog, and we talked for a long time, and that came up, and I was like, one of the reasons I'm here is because I don't understand why this is happening with,
Right.
and it ends up, and I'm not trying to defend law enforcement, but it actually kind of ended up being a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, that Sammy did that, and a lot of information came out of that. I
Right.
think. So, because that trailer was be kind of vague here, just because I don't, but I think you could read between the lines, I think. But that trailer privately owned. Well, I'll just say, it's owned by her grandfather, and he's allowed to give permission for law enforcement to do things to it and everything. So,
Right.
so if those conversations are really monitored
Right.
on video and audio,
Yeah.
may come out of it if a teenager comes in and says, "I don't want to talk to law enforcement, but this is,"
Right.
I don't think people should assume that there was anything was said in those trailers that isn't known, I guess.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I know you had mentioned the ping, and you're like, we kept going back to the ping because that
Yeah.
was the one thing. So, I mean, is that the one thing? Because I know you were foul play in the beginning. Like, pretty much everybody was, and I know you were too.
Yeah.
But is that the one thing that like made you think not foul play? Like maybe this really was an accident?
No, because even with this, so no, because
I think so.
when I was flying the drone after like the second day I was there, I would keep going back. I would search a lot of spots, but when the thing that was tricky about that reservoir is that if there wasn't clouds, it was like a mirror. So I couldn't fly a drone, or it would just be a mirror image of the drone. It was that calm,
Right.
So I would go there either early in the morning or later in the afternoon, and I kept flying over that because at that point, and also I would throw some magnets and stuff. At that point, I was truly looking for a cell phone because I thought, okay, they seem pretty certain the ping's here, and the FBI has a whole team that called their I forget the name of the team, but it's just cell phone triangulation stuff, and they were there.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I'm thinking, okay, the phone must have been ditched,
Right.
And keep in mind we haven't heard the story yet about from Adventures of Purpose about Boca. That Boca lead had been other Boca lead had been looked into, and so nobody's thinking anything about that. But okay, it makes sense that somebody wants to because listen, if I was going to kidnap somebody, first thing you got to do is get rid of anything that can track. So that makes sense that the phone's in there, and it's shallow water on the edges, so it was worth and it does fluctuate quite a bit even during the day. So it's so I was looking in the mud and whatnot, and as you can see from from Juan's footage, when he found the laptop and stuff, you see how stuff can be in there. And so I didn't think that the cell phone ping meant not foul play at all.
Okay.
Now, when the car is found there later next to the cell phone ping, then you're like, okay, we're actually together. I mean, the phone was with her, so
right. No, so they did. So the phone was in the car. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because I know that's been a big thing.
I don't know why. I don't know why they won't come out and just say it. Again, these are things that clarify. But yes, the phone was in the car.
Okay.
But you know what? They didn't even. There's a lot of even people in the sheriff's department that didn't even know that. I mean, the key people did, but I mean, I don't know why these things, especially when they're. I can understand that maybe in the first couple of days when they're making sure there's not foul play, but once you have a pretty good idea there's not foul play, there's no reason to keep all this stuff so secretive. You know what I mean? Like now, there's. I mean, they won't. The FBI won't release anything on this probably for another year because they always just like with Brian Laundrie and so they always wait 18 months before they'll give out anything. And but it creates this shitstorm. And I listen, I feel like I know exactly what happened. I get why people like yourself are still researching it. I don't have a problem
Right.
with you guys researching it. I don't like the and I'm not saying you can't do it. I do get defensive when people blame family members and stuff like that when there's evidence that, but why people are still looking into it. Listen, could I be wrong? Yeah, I could. I don't think I am
Mhm.
one, but I could. I'm not saying shut it down at
Right.
all. I think people need to be more respectful of each other, even in these communities, where
Yeah.
we may have differing opinions, but I've always been willing to, like, I haven't had that many people do what you did and say, listen, let's talk, like,
Yeah.
I get these hostile tweets. I'm not saying from you, but I get these hostile tweets or whatever,
Yeah.
and of course, going through the shit with, what's his name, the country singer, and
Oh,
his
yeah,
his followers, like, so
yeah.
everybody would take shots at you. But I mean, I'm like, listen, if people want to talk, I'll tell you what I know, that,
Right.
especially now enough times passed where I don't think any of this is secret. And if it is, I don't know why it would be, so.
Yeah. And I felt because so many people had been like, I know you were there, and so many people had been going back and forth with like attacking you, attacking this person, doing this, saying this. And I was like, I'm just gonna reach out to
Yeah,
him, see if he'll talk, and I can finally get some answers that I've been looking for. You
sure.
know what I mean?
I get it. I know that, like, listen, I know that I have a big advantage in the fact that, because I met David and whatnot, and because I was there, we happened to be right in the area when it happened
Mhm.
for law enforcement, so we were inside the crime scene. Like, there's stuff that I know the public doesn't know. I don't know why the public shouldn't know, but we
Right.
were told, like, keep everything, especially, the Nick story. Law enforcement was like, they pretty quickly kicked Adventures with Purpose out,
Right.
because they were pissed, rightfully so. They were pissed that it was announced on social media like it was.
Oh, that she was found?
Yeah, because the family hadn't been informed.
Right.
So, like, I get the call. Now keep in mind, we're like 300 yards away. I can see Adventures with Purpose, down below. I can see their trailer and stuff out there. David and Daniel really have no idea who they are. They had heard their name, but I mean, this is all, they're not in this true crime community. They don't know really who these people are. They had asked me, to like, is this a legitimate company, or group? And I was like,
Yeah.
yes. But people were really, trying to get EquiSearch out there. That was the name that kept coming up inside the circles there. I know that online everybody's pushing for Adventures with Purpose, but everybody wanted EquiSearch out there because they felt that, getting horses and stuff in that type of
Oh,
and they just have such a good track record. So, they're hearing these names, but they have a missing loved one. So I mean, they have so much
right.
in and out, and they're just like, they've been up for days. I mean, literally, and so.
I'm sorry. I'm still here. I'm just gonna stop my cam so I can do something. I gotta do something in the background, but I'm still
Yeah.
listening to you.
Okay. I forgot what the rest of the question was.
Okay. I didn't know who Adventures with Purpose was before this
Yeah.
case. I had
I,
never heard of
To
them
be honest
before.
with you, I had only heard their name. I knew they were a dive operation, but I had no idea that they go out on these cold cases and whatnot. And when they asked me that, I called a, advocate that I know, and, because they had when they announced they were coming to town, or they like had changed the days that are coming earlier, they they contacted an advocate that they knew that, knew me, and they asked about the drone footage that I had shot, and about high res copies of it and stuff. So I called that person back and I just said, listen, they're asking, like, is their reputation solid and whatnot. And
Mhm.
I had heard their name, but I didn't know any of their, backstory. And so she was like, yeah. So I just passed that along. And, so when we
Yeah.
were out there, all of a sudden we were talking. I had gone out there and I met David, and then, Daniel we didn't have any plans to meet him. He was just out there on a quad runner searching, and he came up on us, and we were talking for like an hour, and we were I actually had some another private investigator I work with who's in Tennessee. She was sending us copies of those images of the party photos. There was those ones with like the kids, and like the lighting was kind of weird
Yeah.
background. Yep. And what we're doing is we got copies of those, and we were gonna go up because we're on the there's like that inner road. Everybody's seen it now. There's that road that goes kind of all the way around the reservoir. Yes. And we were there, and we were going to go up to the location where the party was and try and find those exact trees.
Right.
Make sure, because to me, that one like panoramic looking photo with like there's like 25 kids in it. I was like, as far I'm trying to remember exactly, but I think there was only, as far as I saw, like one kid had a beer in his hand. None of the rest had, anybody else had drinks in their hand or anything.
Right.
And the clothing they were all wearing looked very like Nirvana 90s.
90s.
And being a photographer, I was like, this looks like film to me. It does not look digital. So I was really questioning whether that was, and I still don't know to this day if that.
It actually came out, that photo was debunked. It came from it was a online picture, but it came from some kind of party in Michigan from years and years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll bet you that it was on film too. So I had some real questions, and I was like, why don't we go? And I explained to them why, and then we all agreed, well, let's go try and find those trees. Like, if we can see if we can figure out if the background's real. And then all of a sudden I get a call from Chloe, who at the time was going by DX the Mystery, but now she uses her name. She's a private investigator that I work with a lot. And she said, hey, first she said, if I'm on speaker, take me off speaker. And I kind of stepped away, and she's like, have you guys heard? And I'm like, no, what? And then she kind of fumbled over her words. I'm like, just tell me what. And she's like, the Vegetable Purpose put on Facebook, they found her.
Oh.
And I looked over, I could see them over my shoulder, like 2 or 3 hours, and I saw them placing cones in front of the RV. And so then I hung up the phone, and I told them, and they're like, where are they? Where are they? And I'm like, well, that's actually their RV right there. And, Daniel jumped on his quad runner, and David
went over there.
I followed them. We took us 30 seconds at most to get there. And, what you see that video, like of the, everybody arriving, coming down the hill is true. And then, that's where it'll start. But yeah, they announced it on Facebook first.
Right.
And so law enforcement was really pissed about that. They're like, you didn't call law enforcement, you didn't call family, so they booted them out pretty quick. And so we didn't, so and then they came over, and when law enforcement came over and was talking to us individually, at that point Daniel was gone. It was just me and David. They at least asked me, they're like, what did Adventures with Purpose tell you? And I told them about the Nick thing, and that's when they said, Nick the AAA driver. And I was like, yeah. So then that's how I've known it was AAA.
Okay.
They kind of like, I don't think they even, picked up that they slipped, but they didn't. Instead of saying roadside assistance, they said AAA guy. So that's why I've always known it was AAA.
Oh.
So, but they were, and I get it why they were pissed. They're like, this should not have been. First of all, they're like, there's a lot of people out at the reservoir. There was people searching, but there's also at that point it was kind of back to being used. And it's an ATV park too.
Mm-hmm.
And, so those are all off-road trails, and so there was a very big risk that all these people come over onto that peninsula, see what's going on, and then if there is any evidence, which, listen, by that time it'd all been run over 100 times anyways, but you just don't want to have a flood of people there in a crime scene anyways.
Right. Okay. Now, I know you had said that that Daniel was there for like over an hour.
Yeah.
Now, in the video that they showed, it really seemed like he was like convinced this was foul play. Like this was not an accident. She did not drive in there by herself, especially when we all found out she was in the back.
Yes.
Now, do you know, I don't know if you've had any contact with Daniel or David since then,
Yeah.
but do you know if like Daniel's still thinking like he's not convinced that this was an accident? Like he thinks somebody knows what happened to his daughter?
So Daniel, I don't know. David, I talk to often. Daniel, I've spoken with many times since. I don't know. Listen, I think there's always going to be. I hate to speak on their behalf, but I guess I think that I think now they're probably at a place where they've seen, including the fire cam footage, they've seen enough evidence to probably get that. I think they're. I think it's safe to say for David, because he's had me put out a couple statements. It's been a while, but he can't wrap his head around why she was left there alone.
Right. I think that's all of us, still.
Yeah. And he very well might be right. He thinks that if anybody older than her, gave her alcohol or provided alcohol, or that's a criminal
right
thing. And I get it. I get it. I don't know if we can figure out exactly where that came from. Listen, there was one thing the pictures showed inside the vehicle underwater is that there was alcohol in the car.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I honestly don't know who.
Oh, okay.
That alcohol. I don't know.
That was going to be my next question for you. Was in all this talk, if you had heard,
Well, I hear the rumors. I mean, like I hear rumors that Sammy and stuff like that. I don't. Right. I just don't. That's nothing that
for sure.
There's a surveillance photo that obviously was used for walking through the gas station. She got gas there. She didn't. There was no alcohol, but I mean they know her at that gas station, so it's like she couldn't buy it anyways. But I don't know where the alcohol came from. Now, so as far as the first, so the right when after Adventures of the Purpose tells us, or Doug takes us aside and is like, it tells us the AAA Nick story. We're still thinking foul play. Now we're thinking, oh shit, because they said, listen, Jagger was identified. And then now, before I start talking to David, because we just had so much downtime waiting there because they were underwater filming, I was like, David, I'm like, you can't make this make sense though, because there's so many things that just did not make sense. Like just how do you get the car from Boca back to the reservoir? That reservoir was under surveillance. It was, I mean, there's simply no way.
See, now I wanted to ask you that because like when Checkit went there in his video, there was no law enforcement there.
There was though, because if you look at the video if you look at the video I put on Twitter right before the one with Checkit, where the video before that is there's a row of 4 law enforcement vehicles, FBI and Sheriff's Department SUVs, where I stop and I'm like, hey, I gotta, and I say like, I don't want this on video. So there was law enforcement all around. Now they weren't stopping anybody from doing anything. There was no like closed off.
Right.
But they were out there for sure. But listen, we're talking about the day after she went missing is when that car would have had to come back, because we know it's not at Boca at that point, right?
Right.
So it just would have been impossible to get it back in. There was FBI, there was feds everywhere, and there's only, there's only that one entrance. There's another one you can take, but you still have to cut over at one point to the main road because the reservoir was pretty full at that point. You couldn't go across. I know a lot of people. I know like what's her name? the big YouTuber that was covering it, Zav, you know, was saying, oh, well, those lights go across and they come out the other side up into the housing thing. That was all water. You couldn't get across there. You know, right now you could do it, but you couldn't then. And even if you went around the edges, it's so that mud is so soft.
Right.
You would get stuck. So we were like, wait a minute, how could there's no way the car can get back in and dropped in the water. I mean, and then the people get out. It would just be such a like, it would be a miracle to pull off. And we didn't say that that's not it. I was just like, I don't know, David. It like doesn't make any sense to me. And then to get the car back right where the cell phone ping was, and there'd be no fresh tracks because they would have left pretty significant tracks in the soft part of the water when it first went in that you couldn't really cover up. We just started thinking, and then, you know, but yeah, listen, I guarantee, I mean, I can't guarantee in my mind, I'm sure that each of them probably has a small portion of them that's always going to wonder, is there more? Listen, I have said from the beginning, I am not saying that she was alone in that car. I have no proof that she wasn't, but would it shock me if one day it came out that some kid just couldn't deal with it on their conscience anymore and said, I was in the car, I got out, I didn't listen to you, I couldn't help her? It would not shock me. I don't think it's very probable at this point, but just because I know what was found in the car and stuff, and there was no evidence of that, but it would not shock me. And it 100% would not shock me if somebody saw the car go in. Mm-hmm. Just as panicked, didn't do anything, and because they didn't do anything, now has to like lock that story in. I don't think anybody was right there on the edge, but you know, like the one girl who was that worked at the grocery store or whatever, that said that they went to have drinks or whatever, and they saw like headlights go in the water. Like, I mean, she came forward, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's more people like that. I wouldn't be surprised if there's somebody from the party, you know. And because I still I don't agree with everybody on the which set of headlights it is that goes in the water. I know everybody thinks it's 1233. It very well could be. I'm in that 1251 camp or whatever.
Yeah.
If it is the 1233, then I have some real questions about why the car at 1251 is, because the headlights go like this and light up the shore. I think that's losing control. But if not, then that's somebody searching for something.
Yeah, I remember that tweet you putting out because we were talking about the video.
Yeah.
And I was like, SF put out a tweet that said he's pretty sure that the 1233 car is not the one that went in. And that's what everybody was thinking.
I think that could actually be her coming down and going to the second peninsula, that bigger one that has like a tree or whatever on it. You know, they got a name for it. I forget the name of it. And because when you get, that's actually a lot more elevated than you think. So when you drive on the side away from the camera, you would actually become invisible. You know, they're still driving around because So I think I think that could be her coming down looking for Sammy or whoever, seeing if they're there, and then when she leaves, she takes the shoreline, but forgets to go left, because you know when you're driving that way, and then like where I was talking about seeing the headlights flash, you see the shoreline across, you know, that's the road from the boat ramp. It's kind of deceiving. It looks like you can connect to that road.
Right.
So I think she could possibly forget, could be screwing with her phone or something, and then she's going towards that, and then all of a sudden then she notices, oh shit, wrong, and then starts fishtailing, but by then it just slides in, you know.
Look, I remember the pictures you put out with the arrows, and you were trying to tell people that from here, that's actually blocked. You can't see that from here.
Yes, and like I was saying earlier, like the water is so still it becomes a mirror image. I mean, you don't, you know, like when you drive by the ocean and stuff, you see, because you see the water moving and you see little white caps and stuff. This is like glass. You can't decipher it from anything else. So it's a lot easier, especially if you're by yourself and somebody's not like, oh shit, Kylie, like there's water right there. Right. And then go to turn, it's a lot steeper too than people think. It's not super, super steep, but I don't know if you saw Checkett's video where he almost went in the water.
Yeah,
you know?
I did.
But you know, it's easy to lose. And you know, she's a 16-year-old driver. she had experience with like driving and because it was on a private road and she had
Right.
driven road vehicles. But, the way she had surgery on her arm the winter before is because she crashed an ATV. So she's not the greatest, like,
Right.
so,
Right. So you said that there was okay, so my next question is, I'm sorry, no, I don't want to keep you too long.
No, that's fine.
But, my next question is, so I think it was like the 12th or the 13th when the cops said, okay, we're scaling back. We're
Yeah.
gonna, scale, because they'd already been searching that area for 2 weeks, the same spot. And I remember yelling at the TV going, she's obviously not there, right? You've been searching there for 2 weeks. But I know at that point they said they were going to scale back on the investigation. So after that point, were there still cops and everything in that area around Prosser?
It truly did scale back. So that really like upset me too. And I had kind of a heart to heart with David about that. I'm like, because they announced that I think on a Thursday, maybe a Wednesday, and Friday, they broke down the whole, the trailers, the whole volunteer stuff broken down. And it was just like over. And I was like, I'm just not one of those people that quits easily. And I was like, and I knew David wasn't either. And I said, I understand being on a search and rescue team with a law enforcement agency. I get that you can only commit, it's 2 weeks is a very long time. 2 days is a long time, a lot of times. But I was just like, we can't
just give up.
And then I was out there. I remember being out there even before they shut down that Friday, around that same time when they announced it, even I think the day before. I remember being out there. I was actually searching up in the woods at that time in a different area up at Donner, and there was signs everywhere of missing Kiely. I mean, everywhere. But so they had all been there and looked at some point, but I went days without seeing another searcher. And I was pissed. I was like, okay, they've been here, but obviously you can't cover all of it. I'm like, why like all these friends that are on the news and doing these interviews, why are they, I haven't seen anybody out here searching. Like, it pissed me off. And it still does, to be honest with you. Yeah. And I commend them for putting the effort in, but Kiely was left, and I think that at that point you owe, I get that they're leaving for college and stuff, but I just felt that, and I also felt that, I got there, I forget exactly what day I got there, but for the time I got there, I never saw a helicopter come over one time.
Right.
Not once.
So from that day when they tore everything down, do you know if cops were still patrolling, like still looking at Prosser area where there's still cops? Would somebody have been able to would somebody had an opportunity to bring the vehicle back maybe then? Now, not saying that that's what happened, but I'm saying,
I know. Was it under tight surveillance? Like, was it, or no, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
It was being used as a campground. I don't ever think it wasn't being, but it would have been really, if you were a camper there, it would have sucked because they had trucks with huge spotlights and stuff at night. All that was gone. The first couple of days I was there, they did have the boat ramp closed off because they were just wanted their boats down there.
Right.
That was all gone. There was not. I do remember like that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of those 3 days. I think I saw a law enforcement vehicle out there once, and that was because somebody had called in. Anytime people were, there was a lot of people at that point that were kind of like tourists that were out there looking one, and so people would find things and they call and they'd be like, "Hey," but no, it was. Could you sneak a car in? Yes, you could.
Right. Yeah, I was just saying, was there an opportunity?
You would have to pass through the campground.
Right.
It would, because it's such a quiet, peaceful area. It would make a sound, just like made a sound that night she went in. However, I think people are kind of numb to that because there had been music, party had been going on. You know what I mean?
Right. Now,
Could you? Yeah, yeah. There was a very minimal law enforcement presence at that time.
okay. Now all the people like Sammy, Jagger, Kate, all these friends of hers that were, on I say friends, it bothers me to say that because like nobody was there for her that night, right? No matter what happened, she was alone. But did you talk to any of them in person or no?
Yeah, not extensively, but yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
And then, but that really fell off after like I'd been there like 2 days. In fact, after I think the first night I'd been there, I think I had heard that Sammy went to Wyoming. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
in fact, I think I announced that on Twitter and it created quite a, but and I only did that because I was pissed. I was
Right.
like, it's ain't a time to be like, you can't take up this limelight. You can't be out there saying, I'm going to do whatever it takes. We'll be here forever. And then,
Right.
and
And then leave.
I get that she came under a lot of pressure, but that's self-induced,
Exactly.
Exactly. So yeah, I did, like Jagger, Jagger was staying at the lodge and, but it was, like I said, I was staying in the same hotel as the FBI and talking to some people like off the record. Like it was very clear that they had Jagger on surveillance in Napa. There's no way.
Okay.
No way he could have been there. He came as soon as they called him. They meaning family and friends.
Right.
And, Kiely's missing, and he the thing is that I get, he's kind of like me in the sense that like he'll sometimes isn't the greatest at like public relations.
Yeah.
But he was also getting a lot of shit. I understand, but he doesn't like taking shit. But he truly did. There's a bulletproof. He had he had been living with his mom a couple doors down from Sammy and from also from Mags. They all lived on the same street, but his mom had broken up with the guy she'd been with for several years, and then she got back together with his dad. So they moved to Napa, and so it was he was very traceable. Now he would come up there a lot still for sure. I think he still does, but
right.
So we knew that he wasn't involved. Now, did we know? Because he was definitely on my list, and I told him Adventure Purpose that I was like, does that mean he doesn't know? I didn't know. Like I don't.
Right.
He wasn't physically involved, but he could know.
Right.
And things because everybody did seem to be like there wasn't a whole lot of answers. People were talking a lot, but there wasn't a whole ton of answers.
Right.
So. Yeah, so as far as and then Sammy, yeah, I talked to her, but then she left.
Right.
They announced they were scaling back the search, and I was just like, wow, they announced they were scaling back the search, and it just like poof, it was done.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It truly felt done. I mean, the only person, and I had never known him before this. The only person that I saw up there also searching regularly was Juan. Check it. And I only had one conversation with him. He would call me a couple times a day on the phone because he would find stuff and be like, is this significant? And he was using Sartopa app or Caltopa app, and so he would photograph it and it would be logged. But besides him, there was really nobody. Now, of course, her family was still dead.
Right.
Her father is like an expert tracker. Like so he was out there on quad runners, and he was definitely doing his thing, trying to track. And then, but her grandfather, I don't want to say he's old and can't get around. He definitely can get around, but he's an older guy, So he would call me and be like, "Could you check this area?" I'd be like, think of areas like water tanks, whatever there may, because I didn't know. So he would call me and he'd give me a list of places that like, could you check this place? And as search and rescue, I'm happy to go out there and do that. And a lot of them were just along the path that she would have had to drive home, because it was pretty certain that she probably took the back road because you only have to cross that. I forget, it's the 40, whatever that highway is. You only have to one quick area, like if you're avoiding cops, and but there's that back road you go through, like a little ski area and housing complex, and so we were really hitting that area hard because
Oh, okay.
we figure it's either somebody's got her in the car. We're certain that the car is not like on the run, like somebody has her on the run, because the surveillance pulled from every gas station. We knew it had to stop because we knew how much gas she bought before the party, and then also just with the license plate readers everywhere now, the car caught. So we figured.
And they obviously put a bolo out on the
Oh
vehicle
yeah,
right away.
Absolutely, that for certain happened. So then we're like, okay, it's got to be like in a garage somewhere,
Right.
because at this point we're definitely thinking foul play. This before it's found, we're like, that's the only thing that makes sense, because
right,
I had gone up there thinking, okay, it's gone off. It could even be up in the trees, with a drop on, but it got searched, and there was a ton. Like if you look at the Sartopa Caltopa map, I mean, everything was searched, and the helicopters were out there apparently a lot before I got there, and so then it becomes, okay, well, the biggest probability, and that's the search and rescue, we're always dealing with odds of probability, is that the car probably is in a garage somewhere, and
right.
then it's like who and why, and
right.
she had been in Mexico with Mags, the week before, and so I mean,
right.
every American that she had contact with down there just met in a bar or whatever, just that lived anywhere in the area the FBI went and met with, and
oh, they did.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they told me they were doing that, and there's one guy in particular that just because he lived like 50 miles away that she had met down there, but it was nothing, but they went in, I know they did like 4-hour interviews with people. They were making sure.
Oh.
So they did do a good job as far as like that goes. They just did a horrible job at searching and actually using tools that were available, like the fire. Listen, this investigation shouldn't have been open more than 12 hours. They should have known that camera was there. They should have footage. They should have said the car is where the cell phone ping is, and get those divers down there and make sure, because I saw the divers in the water, but there was only 2 divers, so even with 2 divers, how they missed it, I have no clue, because my drone footage is pretty clear that the car is there in the water, and I know that. So what I did is, when I was shooting drone footage, I didn't have time to go through it. I put it up on a private link on YouTube, but I said to everybody on Twitter, it's a private link because I don't want people to think I'm monetizing it, but anybody can go on there, search it, scan it. If you see something, call law enforcement or call the tip line. And people did. And I know that Gisela from Grizzly, they put the video up there of the car. You can see it in the water. And several people called that in, and still and nobody did it.
Which, not for nothing, but led a lot of us out here to believe that either A, they weren't investigating this thing like they should have been, like they weren't even you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or B, the car wasn't there at that point when they were searching it.
And see, and so there, and there you go, because it's like, I 100% see why people think that.
Right.
Just from being there, I also know that I could fly over that same area. And I'm not talking about the divers. I'm talking about flying a drone. I could fly over that same area 10 times and maybe get it that one time, just because it's so reflective that. But the divers don't have that problem. How they miss, I don't know. I mean, I would love to see, and I'm sure that this is probably stored on a hard drive somewhere. We'll never see it. I would love to see their side scan somewhere.
Right.
Because I guarantee the car's there.
Right.
And it's got to be somewhat obvious too. So
yeah.
I know it was laying on a slope, but still, it's I don't know. It was, but working on search and rescue, although search and rescue is a part of law enforcement agencies, most search and rescue personnel are volunteers. So I just know that from a person that does it myself, it would be impossible to get a whole team to be like, okay, we're going to be quiet about this. You wouldn't, So I knew that and there was like 4 different search and rescue teams there. It wasn't just there was Nevada or Placer, and then there was different swimmers from a different kind. There was like 4 teams there. I knew you couldn't get everybody to be quiet, but what it was incident command who tells the swimmers, the divers, everybody what to do, where to search. Obviously, drop the ball, and
Right.
horrible investigation.
Yeah.
And so what it does is it creates all this doubt, and I get it. I'm not
Yeah.
saying you're crazy at all for thinking this. I get, I think if you were there, which everybody couldn't be there, obviously, but if you were
I
there,
wish I could have been there.
probably make more sense, just
Right.
because you see, like, but I get why people have doubt, and that's what's frustrating, is because there's always going to be doubt. And is there a small amount of doubt probably in David and Daniel's mind? I think there always will be. I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure there will always be.
I know that there's having an extremely hard time still to this day. I talk to David a lot, and he's just a different person,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't before, but he tells me how he's a different person,
Right.
Yeah.
Now I guess I got like maybe 2 more quick questions.
Yeah, no,
Well, I was like, I'm only gonna keep you 10 minutes.
No, I don't know. I actually, Jared's hearing is at 3 o'clock Utah time, so I don't think that's for another 2 hours. So I'm fine, or 3 hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just have a couple of more. So you were talking about Homeland Security being there.
Yeah.
And I know when I can't remember the cop's name, but when one of the cops came out and he said, well, Homeland Security was involved. And then, and what he said right in the press conference was, he goes, well, it was causing too many people to ask questions. So now Homeland Security's gone.
Yeah.
Now, did they leave once it was decided that it was no longer an abduction? Is that why Homeland Security was there in the first place?
I don't know exactly. I can just tell you what my opinion is. So Homeland Security technically has jurisdiction kind of like everywhere.
Right.
Which it's kind of this, I think that they are trying to shore that up just on a national basis now, and define exactly what their rules are. But it's not very often Homeland Security is there. However, it's a high profile case, and I think that some people, like if you're in an area that doesn't have a ton of Homeland Security stuff going on, you get in the mix, and then I heard people talking about people potentially not talking because there's a lot of travel industry workers that might be undocumented and their kids. And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound right. But at the hotel I was staying at, like I said, which is where Homeland Security and FBI were staying too, it was the Summerfield Suites. I actually talked to a girl. I was going out really early one morning, and there was a girl working behind the front desk, a Hispanic girl. And we started talking, and that came up. And I didn't even actually ask her, but she said, a lot of people in town are just really worried about the undocumented thing and with everybody being here. So I guess it was an issue for people in town. I didn't think it would be, but she said that there were definitely, like hotel workers and stuff were kind of worried.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Now, I know you said you saw the regular characters that we've seen, Sammy, Jagger, Mags, and all that. But did you ever see any of Kiely's friends there that weren't known to us, that weren't on the news, that weren't, like any schoolmates or anything like that? Were there people like that there?
After the probably first day that I was there, I got there on a Sunday, and I saw them, and I never saw anybody else searching from any of the news, except for one. I never saw any one on the news. I'm saying I never saw any of the, now the family was still there at the volunteer center in the trailer. They were actually living in the trailer, so it was open 24 hours.
Right.
But so they were, and like her father were out searching. So when I say didn't see anybody searching, I'm not talking about family. As far as those friends and stuff go, no. Now I know some of them were leaving for school, and that was the part that was part of it, because I know, even Kiely was at one point going to be going, although that got changed. But but still, to me, like, school wasn't starting for another 2 or 3 weeks. Some are going early. I don't know. It just, I guess it's hard to put get yourself in the mindset of a 17 or 18.
Right.
But I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have let. If I had a 17-year-old kid that was there at that point, I would have had them. I would have been like, you're going to be out there searching until this girl's found.
Right.
I think you have that responsibility. I'll never understand that. I think there's
Me either.
other people that will never understand that either.
Right.
I don't know. It's gotta be hard to sleep at night, but
Yeah. I tell you though, this case, like it just got me. It was like, I don't know. There's just so many different aspects of it that and like you said, it's, no thanks to the cops for not coming out and, saying anything. No press conference after the autopsy came out.
yeah.
Not a word from the police. And it's like, you wonder why people are still going, oh, we don't have any answers here.
Well, I'll tell you, and I won't say what agency just to keep some bars because I don't want to.
Yeah, you're fine.
Throw them on the bus because I work with these agencies all the time. But I think it was the second day I was there. Actually, I was coming out of the what do they call it? Where the party was, the sanctuary. I was coming down that road where she unfortunately went right instead of left, and at that intersection, a group of like 6 or 8 SUVs from different agencies came up to me, and they stopped sign, and they're like, somebody reported possible blood or something. I think this was on the day that grave thing was found, and and I was like, no, I'm like, I didn't see anybody out there, and the law enforcement officer said, I've been out here so many fucking times, and I was just like, after he left, I was like, man, that like, so
Right.
that's you're supposed to be out here. So that really, I was just like, I don't.
Yeah.
But it's what you sign up for as a law enforcement agent,
Right.
So, and it kind of threw me off, to be honest with you. I was like, damn, because I do a lot of this, and a lot of times we just never find the person. We keep going, but I've never said that. I've never been like, oh, I'm so fucking sick of this.
I know.
I didn't say I'm sick of this. He said, I've been here so many fucking times, but I knew what he was saying was,
right.
We're not going to find her. She's not alive.
Right. I'm sick of coming out here. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that really was kind of disappointing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I actually have company coming over, family, but I want to thank you so much for your time, and thank you for answering some questions for me. And,
sure.
Just thank you.
Yeah. And just so you know, I mean, like I said, I mean, no way telling anybody to stop investigating. Like, maybe there's something that I can tell you that I'm 100% sure in my mind that it was an accident, but doesn't mean I'm 100% right either. I will always listen to other sides, and I don't knock anybody. I just think that the personal attacks should, and I'm not talking about you. I'm saying I think the personal attacks should stop, and even on family, unless they're dead certain. But I'm not discouraging anybody from shaking it up. And listen, get that report from CHP. I think that will. I haven't seen it, but I think that will. It's not out, but I mean, I think that will give a lot of answers. But that stuff should be done. You know what I mean? And it's so. I'm not saying to back off at all. I just tell you what I know, and take that under consideration, and then
Right. And like I said, I'd rather do it myself than, oh, well, he said this over here, this was said over here. I was like, I'm just going to reach out, see if he'll answer some questions. And, I'm just trying to get answers.
Listen, I get it. And you know what? This is, law enforcement can bitch and complain that this is causing distraction stuff. They're the ones causing you and me to have these conversations, because they come out and be honest and say, here's all of it, and we fucked up and we're embarrassed about it, but if they would do that and just be honest, but they won't. I don't know. It's
I know it's insane. But if anything else does come up, can I get a hold of you again? Reach out to you again?
You got contact info. Just don't be afraid to use it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and I hope you have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, you guys. So that was my interview with SF. Like I said, I just wanted to reach out to him, hear what he had to say. I wasn't hearing it from a bunch of other people. It was not hearsay, so let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I love you guys. Stay strong, stay healthy, stay safe. Keep asking those hard questions and keep spreading that light. Please leave a thumbs up on this video. Please leave your comments down in the comment section below. And anybody that wants, it's all free. It's a free way for you to help out the channel. Please subscribe if you have not done so already. And anybody that wants to do more to donate, links are all down in the description below. I love you guys. Have a good day.